here we go. If you have 3 moles of methane, how many grams of water will you get as a result of combustion? Okay. Now, this one is starting with moles of methane. So it's actually starting with moles. So this is actually an easier one. It gives us moles. So I have 3 moles of methane. And I want to turn it into water. Okay, so I need a molar ratio for that. I need a molar ratio for that. So the methane was 1 CH4. So I'm going to do that. It's going to be 1 mole of CH4 turns into the water. The water I can see is 2 H2O. So 2 moles of H2O. Anytime you're changing from one molecule or element to a different one, you're probably going to need a molar ratio. So it's worth taking. It only takes you, at this point, it should only take you 10 to 15 seconds to write down that molar ratio. So even if you don't use it, it's not a big loss. Okay, at least you've got it there. It's much better to have it than to get to some point and not know what to do, and really all you needed was the molar ratio. So go ahead and write it down. Now, I am starting with 3 moles of methane. Okay, starting with that 3 moles of methane. I want to turn that into water. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my molar ratio because I do have moles. So I can use a molar ratio here. I do want the CH4 on the bottom so that it cancels out. And so I'm going to put my 1 mole of CH4 on the bottom. And I'm going to put my 2 moles of H2O up on the top. I do see that my moles of CH4 cancel out, giving me 3 times 2. And so that's going to give me 6 moles of H2O. Now, that's not it, right? The question didn't ask for how many moles of water. The question asked for how many grams of water. All right? So I am going to need to do one further step, right? I'm going to need to pull out my lovely table of elements, or look it up on my computer. And in the table of elements, I need to find the molar mass of water. I need to find out how many grams there are in each mole. Now remember, the way to do that is to just take each of the individual pieces and add them together. So water is made up of 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen right there. So I'm going to look at hydrogen and I see the small number right down there. Let me see if I can show you there. You see that? The small number, the 1.0080, that is the grams per mole of hydrogen. We've got oxygen over here on this side, and you can see that oxygen is 15.999. All right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my calculator, and I'm going to come back, and then I'm going to type in exactly that. I need 2 hydrogens. So the hydrogen, remember, was 1.0080. So I'm going to multiply that by 2. So I have 2 hydrogens. And then I'm going to add on that 15.999, which is the oxygen. And then when I push enter, I get 18.0. All right? So 18.0 is it looks like it's been rounded to 3 sig figs. That's fine. I can use 3 sig figs. Your calculator may have more digits. Achoo! That was all. Achoo! Okay, so there we go. So 18.0. That was it. Now I'm done. So the molar mass of water is 18.0 grams of H2O for 1 mole of H2O. Remember, when we started learning this conversion stuff, we learned 2 fractions at the beginning. We learned 1 fraction, which turned it from moles to molecules. That was the 1 mole equals 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. And then we also learned the molar mass fraction, which converts from 1 mole to the number of grams in that mole. So for water, that's 18.0. That's what we just found by adding up the molar mass of each individual piece of the H2O. All right? So I have 18.0 grams over 1 mole. So now I'm starting with, so this is kind of the next step here. Let me use a different color so it's clear. I'm starting with my 6 moles of H2O, and I want to turn that into grams, and I'm going to use the fraction that connects moles and grams, and I need the moles to cancel out. So I want the moles on the bottom. They're already on the bottom there. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 mole of H2O, and the top is going to be 18.0 grams of H2O. And again, what we'll see is that they cancel out. The moles of H2O cancels out, and we're then left with 6 moles of 6 times 18 grams of H2O. And my final answer then is 6108 grams of H2O. All right? So, a little bit harder, right? Because we had to add in this other idea from last class, but it's not over the edge. You can do that. Most of you, I think, as I was doing that, are like, oh yeah, I've seen it. I did that last night. Yeah, you did do that last night, right? So it's just combining what we're doing tonight with what you did last night. All right? Okay.